Welcome back to the Healthy Habit Podcast, episode number 238 here. We're talking with Ashley Jones here. I'm your host of the pod, Dr. Dayon at Healthy Habit Medical Center. We're located right inside Healthy Habit Health Foods. For 6 years now, the clinic's been here. Store's been here over 2 decades now here in the Phoenix Uptown area. So we're talking with Ashley Jones, who was with us on episode 196 there, where we broke down anti-anxiety options, deep sleep support, and highlighted several important products through LifeSeasons. Ashley is a wellness education specialist at LifeSeasons. She was born and raised in Baltimore. Her background and certifications include retail, holistic health, reiki, fine art, and even mindful leadership. Before coming to LifeSeasons, she was a wellness manager at MOM's, or Mom's Organic Market, which is an East Coast chain. She stayed with that company for 13 years. Currently, she's working toward a Bachelor of Science in nursing. She loves to combine her interest in medical history, research, and infectious disease with holistic health and art to help others. And I think you mentioned you're doing some midwife work now as well, Ashley. Is that true?
I just trained. I'm a trained end of life doula, so I'm a death doula now. Yeah.
Wow.
hmm
That takes a special type of person. That's not easy to do. And what led you to that? That's super interesting. How did you get involved in that field?
Sure. Yeah. So if you remember, like you just mentioned, I'm in school to become an RN, with the goal to become a nurse practitioner. And I really like the idea of focusing in geriatric medicine. And I was really inspired by my grandfather-in-law's passing at his assisted living community and all the different nurses and people that worked in that department. And I thought, what a great gift to help someone pass peacefully,
Wow.
to help, their last transition be one that is as peaceful as possible.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. Good. Congrats on that. That's amazing. And so let's dive right into this here today. We've got some new SKUs coming in here at Healthy Habit Health Foods from the company Life Season, who we've been speaking with, by the way, for over 6 years now, definitely since at least I've been doing the radio show and the podcast. Awesome company. So tell us about hormone balance. We'll start with that one. We have a fertility one as well we're going to highlight, and if time permits, we might even dive into the kidney support product. But let's start things off with the hormone balance new SKU here at Life Seasons.
Yes, thank you so much. So PCOS, or polycystic ovary syndrome, is something that affects around 1 in 10 females, but it's actually estimated that around 70% of females remain undiagnosed. And there are some, there are some common symptoms that, go along with that, including things like a higher instance of inflammation throughout the body, higher risk of cardiovascular disease, metabolic syndrome, and irregular menstrual cycles, which can lead to things like infertility. So, with that comes also increased facial and body hair and hormonal acne. So, it can be quite unpleasant for people that are struggling with hormone imbalance due to PCOS. So our formula includes ingredients like vitamin D, because vitamin D has been shown to help increase ovulation and pregnancy. So for people that are trying to get pregnant with PCOS, this can possibly help. It also helps to lower serum testosterone. So the higher levels of testosterone is what leads to things like the increased facial and body hair for people that struggle with PCOS. Vitamin B6 is in this formula because it helps to support neurotransmitter and mood balance. It also aids in progesterone synthesis. So, progesterone is one of those things that is required in certain cycles of the menstrual cycle. And for people that have PCOS, it's lower.
Interesting.
Yeah, chromium is also in here because it helps with insulin resistance. And like I mentioned, metabolic syndrome is a symptom of PCOS. So we definitely want to include something that's going to help with our blood sugar.
Right.
Chaste tree we have in here. It's been, clinically studied to help lower prolactin. So, high levels of prolactin increase irregular menstrual cycles. So we want to help lower that. It's also just been traditionally used for hormone balance. Same thing with DIM. So DIM, a lot of people might be familiar with that. It's in a lot of hormone or menopausal, even like some PMS formulas. And that's because it helps to promote healthy estrogen metabolism. And then lastly, in this formula, we have the myo and inositol.
Yeah,
Um, and so inositol is really just a naturally occurring sugar alcohol. It's found in different foods as well as the body. And our formula includes the natural 40 to 1 ratio of myo and inositol. So this is what you'll see in the body. The body naturally has that ratio. And inositol has been widely studied to help manage blood sugar levels. It's been compared even to metformin in some clinical research.
right.
And it improves hormonal imbalance. And so we want to include that in here because the goal is really to reduce those androgens, those male sex hormones, to help minimize some of those symptoms like excess facial or body hair, hormonal acne, and especially to help promote regular menstrual cycles.
I keep getting this notification that the page is still loading, so ignore that if you're watching on YouTube. Thanks for breaking that down for us, Ashley. Hormone balance, PCOS formula. If you're unfamiliar with that, folks, polycystic ovarian syndrome, super, super common here in the Western world. And we're trying to address it here with a blend of herbs, vitamins, minerals, and other nutrients like inositol, which is actually a B vitamin, technically, myo-inositol. Tell us a little bit more about inositol. Super valuable for women's health, the stress response. Tons of research now. Specifically, folks, you want to look for that myo-inositol. That's the key one, MYO dash inositol. Tell us a little bit more about inositol.
Yes, inositol has been widely studied for various things, including fertility, hormone balance, even things like lipid levels. So, in postmenopausal women, inositol has been studied to help lower levels of cholesterol. So, that in turn helps to reduce the risk of heart disease. There's just been so many things, stress and anxiety. There's even been some studies that show inositol can help minimize the risk of panic attacks in people that experience high levels of stress and anxiety.
Uh-huh.
It's amazing. It really does help with so many different things. And the fact that it is something that is naturally occurring, it's not, some form of medication that comes with harmful side effects. It's a great option for people who are looking for a more natural alternative.
Yeah, it specifically looks like it's standardized to the 40 to 1.
Yes. And like I mentioned, the 40 to 1 myo to inositol, that is what's naturally occurring in the body is that ratio. The
Got it.
myo-inositol is the more abundant form.
Got it. Thank you for clarifying that for us. Appreciate that. And then, of course, chaste tree berry, vitex, is another super important woman's health herb used in different formulas for many, many years. Tell us a little bit more about vitex as well. I wanted to highlight those two in particular.
Yes, so chaste tree, like you mentioned, it's a traditionally used to help balance hormones like estrogen and progesterone, and also helps to minimize excess testosterone. So, estrogen and progesterone are very important when it comes to the menstrual cycle. And unfortunately, if the body is not making enough progesterone, the estrogen metabolism does not get broken down the way that it normally does, and we can be left with a dominant form of estrogen. So chaste tree helps to balance those hormones and helps to promote a normal, healthy menstrual cycle.
Amazing. Great breakdown on that. So, what are some symptoms women should be looking out for if they've never even received an official PCOS diagnosis, Ashley, to be looking out for? Because there are a lot of women that come here to our clinic and they do receive a first time diagnosis of PCOS after going through the right imaging, ultrasound, etc., hormone testing in the blood work. What are some early warning signs that might be hitting the radar to pay attention to?
Sure. So the first thing to look out for, that's probably one of the most prominent symptoms, is irregular menstrual cycles. So a typical menstrual cycle will be around 28 days to 36 days long, depending on the person. And so for people with PCOS, they may either have shorter or longer cycles. They may skip some of their menstrual cycles, skipping their period. And some other symptoms they can look out for are hormonal acne, especially if they are beyond their teenage years. Other factors can, of course, induce acne, like bacteria, stress, diet, things like that. But it is a symptom. And that's the thing with PCOS is it's not a disease like, type 2 diabetes. It's a syndrome. And so that just means it's a
Right.
collection of symptoms. And so in
Interesting.
order to get diagnosed with PCOS, you need to exhibit a certain amount of these symptoms. It also has a higher instance of metabolic syndrome, like I said. So there's a higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes with PCOS due to insulin resistance, and also a higher risk of cardiovascular disease as well.
Yeah, very true. So those are all things to look out for. I like that you just said that it's not a disease. You don't just receive a one-time diagnosis so simply based on looking at a couple symptoms or blood parameters. You got to look at everything. It's a collection of situations going on there. Symptoms, blood work, imaging to actually show there's ovary cysts on the ovaries, right? So all that together can help you identify that. And then the
And then
hormonal balance product by LifeSeasons is one of our newest SKUs here at Healthy Habit. If we're out, we can special order that for you and ship it anywhere nationwide. Again, supports hormonal balance, cycle regularity, and reproductive health. As you mentioned, Ashley, cycle regularity is one of the first things to look out for to see if you're potentially dealing with PCOS. Anything else you wanted to highlight on that hormone balance product before we switch gears here and move down the line?
Sure, yeah, I just wanted to note too that not
Please.
everyone with PCOS will have irregular cycles.
Right.
So if you are someone who's experiencing some of the other symptoms, it's always best, like you said, to just get a hormone test, maybe have some imaging, talk to your healthcare team about that because it could still be PCOS.
Thank you for that. It's important. Super important. So next up on the list here, and in our new SKU options here through Life Seasons, which we have a full section here, by the way, at Healthy Habit Health Foods of Life Seasons. Just ask one of our staff and they'll point you in that direction. And then Fertility is next up on the radar. A lot of their products they have like Anxiety dash and then a T at the end. So look for that on the product labels and tell us about it. The Fertility product.
Yes, so fertility is very common. It's actually more common than most people would think, infertility. And it's just characterized by the inability to conceive after a year of regular unprotected sex. And if you're over 35, it's 6 months with trying to conceive. If you haven't
Mm-hmm.
been able to conceive over 6 months, you might want to start looking at some options. So, interestingly, fertility issues are one third of the time to do with the female, one third of the time to do with the male, and another third of the time to do with both. And so, it's important when you're talking about fertility to discuss both male and female fertility. So some causes of infertility, aside from just age, are things like PCOS, like we mentioned, endometriosis, diet and lifestyle, scarring. So if you've had like
Oh yeah.
surgery, certain medications, and even thyroid disorders, because the thyroid is, a very important endocrine gland. And so our formula, hopes to address those things by including things like what you see in the PCOS formula. So you'll notice some overlap in the ingredients. So there's vitamin D in here. We actually have receptors for vitamin D in our ovaries and uterine lining.
Mm-hmm.
And studies have shown that vitamin D supplementation has improved IVF outcomes. And deficiencies in vitamin D can worsen PCOS and endometriosis. So it's been linked to egg quality, ovulation, and a healthy uterine lining. We also have L-methylfolate in here, which is very important when trying to conceive and, of course, during pregnancy as well.
Right.
L-methylfolate has been shown to help reduce the risk of neural tube defects. So, our form of folate here is the active form for people that have the MTHFR variation. And then it's also supporting progesterone levels, egg quality, and regular cycles. Again, you'll see we have chaste tree berry in there. It's going to be for the same reason that we have it in the PCOS formula, the hormone balance.
Uh-huh.
It's because it helps to lower prolactin. Since high levels of prolactin create irregular cycles, if you have irregular cycles, you're not ovulating. And if you're also not able to create, like, the luteinizing hormone, for example, like if your luteal phase which is the second half of your menstrual cycle, right? It's the phase after ovulation and
Right.
before menstruation. If you are not having consistent and regular cycle lengths, the uterine lining isn't able to build up a thick and nourishing layer to protect an embryo once it's been fertilized. And
Mm.
this can lead to failure to implant as well as early miscarriage.
Wow.
So we want to help to support the uterine lining as well as supporting a regular menstrual cycle so that we have healthy ovulation. So that's why we have the chaste tree in there. It helps to, like I said, lengthen that luteal phase, helps to balance that menstrual cycle. We also, again, have the myo and inositol in here
In the 40-to-1
in the
ratio.
40-to-1
Hmm.
ratio, exactly. And it's, again, for the same reason, because it's going to help with those things that might be causing infertility. So it also helps, it's actually been studied to help reduce the risk of gestational diabetes,
Wow.
which is great, especially if you are older and trying to conceive when there's higher instances of gestational diabetes.
Yeah.
And then we also have CoQ10. So CoQ10 is an amazing antioxidant. It's really great to help promote egg quality. So especially as we age, females are born with all of the eggs that we will ever have. And as we get older, and more females are having children later in life, it's important to help promote egg quality because it's not just the amount of eggs that you have or whether or not you're releasing them in ovulation, but it also has to do with the quality of those eggs.
Right. Super important right there. While also reducing other risk factors like dyslipidemia or excess cholesterol. This is all working together for a healthy pregnancy, right? And so tell us about this 6 capsules a day. Some people might say that's a lot, but it doesn't have to be all together. It can be split up, right? Maybe like two, two, and two. How would you approach that?
Yeah, I'm really glad that you mentioned that. So inositol, the actual like molecule size is just rather large. So
Got it.
similar to things like magnesium or calcium, usually when you take those minerals, you have to take a lot of capsules. And it's just because we're not physically able to pack it into a smaller amount of
Right,
capsules.
right.
So the inositol is really for the reason for the 6 capsules a day. You'll see in here there's 2,000 milligrams to 50 milligrams. So that's the myo to inositol. And that is the clinically studied level to help boost fertility is the 2,000. There's always a minimum of 2,000 milligrams in clinical trials. And so we do have 2,000 milligrams of inositol in there, and it just takes up a lot of space. But
Got
just
it.
like you said, you can absolutely take it throughout the day. It does not need to be taken all at once. And another thing, inositol mixes pretty well. And so if people want to open the capsules and, put it on their oatmeal or put it in a drink, they can also do that as well.
Amazing. This product's coming at an important time. Like you said, a lot of people dealing with infertility issues. It's become global. It's a global phenomenon now. If people used to have kids when they were in their early 20s, now it's pushed to late 20s, if not early 30s, is becoming more and more common. So this is a potential ally, folks, in your journey towards a healthy fertility process. We're not giving any medical advice, right, Ashley? We're just trying to show you some options that are out there. Run this by your fertility doctor, a product like this, and get their approval first. Or if you're doing this all on your own, then it's up to you. But no medical advice. We're just trying to show you what's out there in the natural world. And there is some overlap, like we mentioned, between this product and the woman's hormone balance product that we just mentioned a few moments ago for PCOS in terms of specifically the myo-inositol and the chaste tree. I think none of the other ones are in that formula, correct?
Vitamin D, there's
Oh,
vitamin D
got
in
you.
both. Yeah.
In both. Thank you for clarifying that. So, any last words of wisdom? Tell us a little bit more actually on CoQ10. I want to hear that specifically. I've researched it for men's health and men's fertility. A lot of my clients are men who want to optimize their sperm health, for their fertility journey. And CoQ10 is a critical player in the sperm health aspect of fertility. So tell us a bit more on the CoQ10 and women's fertility.
Sure. So if you go all the way back to when you took biology, and we remember that our cells have mitochondria, it's often called the powerhouse of the cell.
Right.
Mitochondria is, like I said, the powerhouse of the cell. It is responsible for making energy for the cell so the cells can take out their normal functions and do what they need to do. So, coenzyme Q10 is CoQ10. This is going to support mitochondrial energy production. And so, the reason that that's important is because we want to produce ATP, right? ATP is like the energy source for our
Right.
cells. And so CoQ10 is a powerful antioxidant. It's going to help the cells function at their optimum level. And when you think about like a car engine, for example, right, a brand new car engine, hopefully, will be running very well. But as it ages and as you continue to use it over and over and over again, that engine isn't quite as effective.
Yeah.
And so this is where CoQ10 can come into play because it is like an energy booster for the cells. So it helps to protect the cells, helps the mitochondria to make more ATP. And this is just going to be important in all of our cellular functions, which is why, like you mentioned, it's not only important in this particular instance, but it's been shown to help with cardiovascular health, with male fertility. There's a lot of different areas
Right.
that CoQ10 has been studied.
You can see if you just do CoQ10 Women's Fertility Scholar on Google, you can see all kinds of different papers that pop up here. Like uh, there's a lot of Chinese research too, which is really cool on CoQ10 as well as other traditional Chinese medicine herbs, which I use a lot of clinically here with acupuncture. And this stuff is fascinating. Like for example, emerging evidence shows that CoQ10 supplementation leads to improvement of ovarian reserve and oocyte quality or the egg cell quality, resulting in lower rates of apoptosis, which is a key part in ovarian aging. So this stuff is being heavily researched. Here's another one. CoQ10 stimulates reproductive vitality. That should say vitality. It's just a different way of spelling it. In female reproductive disorders, CoQ10 has been studied and continues to be studied for this. Anything else you wanted to add on that specific product we were just highlighting there on the fertility for life seasons?
Sure. Yeah, I would love to just mention that we also have a Fertility 2X that is just for specifically for women over 35 trying to conceive. And it's a very similar formula. Really, the only difference is that has double the dose of the myo and myo-inositol, just to help again support women that have older eggs that are trying to conceive. And it's also in a powder form. So since, as you can imagine, at the 2000 milligrams and the original Fertility, it's 6 capsules, we wouldn't want someone to take 12 capsules. And so we decided to move it to a powder form.
Got it. And I did find that here. I didn't catch it on Life Seasons website, but I did find it on Google in general. Again, the Fertility 2X Women's Ovulation Support. Thank you for including that. And the big differentiator there is when would you want it? Because you're going from 2,000 to 4,000. When would someone make that stepwise? Give us one last quick summary on that. When
Sure.
would you
So if
raise it
someone
up?
is
Yeah,
struggling with significant or long-term PCOS symptoms that has been causing infertility, or someone is over 35.
perfect. Thank you, Ashley. And we're coming to the last couple minutes here. We probably won't have time to introduce the kidney support formula, but that will be for our next episode for sure. This one will cover overall PCOS, fertility tools, the 2X fertility support as well. If you're having a tougher time dealing with fertility and over the age of 35 for women, what's a good take home on today's episode? We've highlighted some new Life Seasons products. Customers love Life Seasons. I appreciate their formulas always because of their standardization and the extracts that you're doing and listing it on the product labels. For example, like when we're talking about chaste tree or vitex, you have 0.5% of the agnosides in there or 0.4% of the acubins. Those are tough ones to pronounce, but how important is that, having those standardized extracts? And then we'll leave with a take home message here for today.
Yes, so the standardized extracts are important for two reasons. One, at Life Seasons, it's our goal to always remain transparent. we want to fully disclose the exact breakdown of all of our ingredients for our customers. And two, the reason we specifically highlight that, aside from transparency, is that we want to show that we base our formulas directly on clinical research. So we are looking at what the research is currently telling us about what is effective in these conditions, and we want to support that efficacy by using exactly what clinical research tells us.
Amazing. And what's a good place people can stay in the loop and yeah, stay in the loop with what's going on?
Yeah,
Lifeseasons.com.
absolutely. Please check out our website. We're also on Instagram. We do sell our products in retail locations. So, of course, like Healthy Habit, and we're in other places as well. And we have a wonderful customer success team. So, if you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to them. And then just a take home for fertility and PCOS support, I would just
Yes, please.
say, make sure to that people look at what kind of ingredients they're surrounding themselves around, things that they might not think of. So chemicals that are in laundry detergent, body wash, excuse me. We always talk about food, but it's also these additional things, even stuff that they're using in their lawn care. There's been strong links that these excess chemicals that we're being exposed to has been influencing hormonal imbalances and infertility. And of course, as always, prioritizing self-care and stress relief, things like that, because stress can be a major factor in both hormonal imbalances and infertility.
Thank you, Ashley, for coming on for episode 238. Ashley Jones, everybody. And I highly suggest episode 196 as well, which I mentioned at the opening of today's episode, where we highlighted anxiety and then the anxiety plus extra strength formula. We even covered some sleep support formulas there, the Rest Triple Z and the Rest Triple Z Extra Strength, with some lifestyle tips and much more. So, Ashley, thanks for coming on and all your education. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much. Thanks for having me.